Well, thank you to our first panel for getting us started. I'm excited by the number of questions we already got there, and hopefully we keep that excitement and engagement rolling through the rest of the day. As I mentioned, we're having a little bit of a fireside chat with Dave Wulf today. So I'm going to start this. I think it's a 10 hours of Yule log fire, and I'll just put this here for the purposes of ambiance here at the Sheraton Grand. Dave, thank you for coming back. I think last year was your first in-person appearance at a conference. Is that right?
I think that is very true. Thank you. Thank you for having me back, Kelly.
Yes.
I appreciate the invitation, particularly given my somewhat questionable comedy routine last year.
Well, you've got a second opportunity.
Yeah, awesome.
You've been at TTB for a little over 18 months, right?
That is, yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then before that, give us a little bit of a background. You were at DHS before that, but give us your background and how everything has been going since you first got to TTB.
Yeah, no, glad to. So, yeah, true story. I've been at TTB for a little more than 18 months, since January of 21. So, turned up right in the midst of the pandemic. So super awesome timing. But prior to that, had spent about 10 years at Department of Homeland Security. And before that, about a dozen years at ATF, with which, of course, TTB shares a little bit of lineage. And so, in all three roles, sort of a regulator in each of the organizations, though regulating different things. So at ATF, it was the explosives industry. At DHS, it was the chemical industry. Did a little work on election security, which was super fun and not drama filled at all. And some critical infrastructure protection. And then had the opportunity to come over to TTB and back to my roots a little bit.
Sure. So lots of regulated industries there. Certainly alcohol being no exception. It's a storied industry. And as you know, I've been at the center for a little over 2 years. So I think we've both got a good handle on spelling regulation. But as far as getting up to speed on the industry is concerned, is there anything that was particularly challenging to overcome, to learn, and to get into the weeds of?
Yeah, I mean, just as reflected in the last panel, there is just so much to know and to learn, and so opportunity to be out and about at events like this one has been just hugely helpful to me in sort of getting up to speed, getting an opportunity to meet key stakeholders, get a sense of what is on everyone's minds, what you all view as the opportunities, the challenges inherent in the world of alcohol beverage distribution, regulation, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool.
So
wonderful.
there is a lot, and I learn something new almost every day, maybe every minute.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Well, what's at the top of your priority list at TTB, and what's on the horizon? Give us a little preview of that, if you would.
Yeah, no, sure. I'm glad to. So, I'd say first and foremost, prioritize. It's sort of the day-to-day work. We strive to prioritize, facilitating and supporting the success of our regulated industry members, and in particular industry members like those in the room here today who are striving to always do the right thing. And I will say, and maybe back to the last question a little bit, it's one thing that I've felt so privileged over the course of 25 years of regulating in each of the roles, ATF, DHS, and TTB now, to have the opportunity to work with industry and other stakeholders who really and truly do want to do the right thing. And share information, lift up their counterparts, to include even their competitors for the good of all. And just want to commend this entire room, Center for Alcohol Policy as well. Your existence is a testament, I think, to the fact that this is an industry and a community that wants to do the right thing and talk about the issues and share information. So, we want to support the success of this community. So we want to get industry members permitted and into business. We want to help you all get products to market by approving labels and formulas. We want to drive policies and other efforts that can kind of be helpful from a marketing and product value perspective, as well as from a provision of consumer information perspective. Of course, core to our mission is the collection of taxes. We do collect about $20 billion in taxes each year. And, large chunk of that comes from the alcohol beverage industry, and it funds a lot of important programs for the nation, a lot of national priorities. So, that's certainly another reason we want to facilitate the success of the industry. We want to help it contribute to the tax base, create jobs, grow the economy. So, yeah, that is kind of the day-to-day in furtherance of all that kind of bigger picture priorities. We are always looking to enhance the so-called TTB customer experience, streamlining our processes, modernizing the way folks interface with the agency, trying to keep turnaround times down as folks are seeking permits or approvals for labels and formulas. We have driven those times way down, notwithstanding the explosive growth in the size of the industry. Of course, maintaining that level playing field for all industry members across all three tiers. I'm sure we'll get into some of this as we go, but things like implementation of have we used the 45 minutes yet, Kelly?
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
Yeah. Is the fire still going?
So
Things like
a moment ago.
Excellent. Things like implementation of the Craft Beverage Modernization Act, implementation of the executive order on promoting competition in the American economy. And we, always keep an eye on the future and the prospect of things like federal legalization of cannabis coming our way. If and when it does happen at the federal level, it is highly likely that is coming to TTB. So long answer. I will stop talking. And
great. Let me ask you another
Yeah,
question. You can
yeah.
talk some more.
give it a go.
You have a lot on your plate. You've just obviously given us a lot that you're working on, a lot that's on the horizon. And also there's been some reorganization at the front office too. Is that right?
That is true. We have done a little rejiggering.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know Liz Khan, who's been a part of your team, is running a new office there. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, glad to. Yeah. So Liz, who was out here last year or in Chicago last year and would have been here, but for some ridiculous idea of having a week of vacation.
I hear she's rafting.
Yeah, that's the story.
Great.
Through the Grand Canyon, where there is reportedly no cell service, which is
That seems too convenient.
I think super.
Also, thank her for the
Yeah.
invite.
Not
Good
sure
luck
I-
here. Okay.
Not sure I buy it. Did she invite you?
No.
Oh, I see.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
right?
All right. I got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Great.
Got
So
it, got it.
that's a new office that is focused on external communications, or
Well,
remind me.
so Liz has been our longtime chief of staff, which was a part of the organization that, in addition to trying to make the whole bureau run on a day-to-day basis, was responsible for stakeholder engagement, communications, all that, all of our industry relations work. But we kind of recognize that we have a lot of stuff coming down the highway at us, a lot of headlights on us, some closer than others. But as we look at things like implementation of the Craft Beverage Modernization Act, where we have a sort of hard deadline coming up at us January 1st to flip the switch on administration of import claims, as we look at the future and planning for things like federal cannabis regulation and taxation, as we look at things like implementation of the executive order, we realized we needed a new organization to sort of do that planning effort and to focus on those cross-bureau initiatives. And so we built something called the Office of Policy and Planning, and we installed Liz at the helm as the new Assistant Administrator for Policy and Planning. And we sort of separated out the traditional Chief of Staff duties and brought in a new person, Amy Graydon, with whom I worked once upon a time at DHS, and who has more recently been at the Department of Transportation, and whom you guys should all meet at some point to do the traditional Chief of Staff work.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
of
That's
course.
that's helpful to know. Obviously CBMA has been a big undertaking.
Yeah.
January 1 is on the horizon. We're essentially at the end of summer, which is wild.
Yeah.
Talk a bit more about what that entails. Do you have the resources you need to accomplish this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Kelly. So yeah, I mean, CBMA is pretty much an all-consuming, or CBMTRA, as some do. We skip a couple of those letters because just not enough time to do all the letters. But really an all-consuming effort for us. So, you know, the background, of course, is that the law was permanently enacted in 2020, the end of 2020. It rejiggered tax rates across all alcohol commodities. And it also critically for us called for the transfer of import administration responsibilities from our friends at Customs and Border Protection to the Treasury Department and us at TTB. So really a significant expansion of our mission. You know, last year, the Treasury Department pushed out a report to Congress that outlined the plan for the transition. It's about 100,000 pages. So it's super awesome beach reading. If you guys have you know,
This really makes Toward Liquor Control look like a short read.
What?
That makes Toward Liquor Control look like a short read.
Oh my
So
gosh,
thank
yeah.
you.
Oh,
Thank you for that advertisement.
absolutely. Full service. But the date, as you mentioned, is January 1st, 2023 for the switch to flip from customs to us. So we are working really hard. And this is one of the things Liz, was probably what drove Liz to the Grand Canyon rafting trip this week, has been focused on, you know, 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day, is to sort of prepare for that, position ourselves for success. You know, it entails things like building new IT systems and online modules to enable the you know, the registration of foreign producers, the filing of claims, the assignment of tax credits from foreign producers to domestic importers, putting out guidance and regs, looking at how we do education and outreach to foreign producers with whom we haven't had much engagement in the past. And yeah, it's going to take some significant resources. So, you know, in the good news is that the president's budget for FY23 contains about $15 million and about 40 bodies for the effort. The less awesome news is that there is literally no chance those resources will make their way to us before January 1st, which I know is shocking given the you know, the efficiency with which Congress usually works on the appropriations process.
Well known.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer to hear you won't have any of those 80,000 new IRS agents.
I know. I'm
those?
working on a plan, and maybe hopefully Liz is doing some creative thinking as she rafts through the Grand Canyon about how we can help the IRS spend some of that money.
Help them out
And
with
use some of
that.
those folks. Exactly. Yeah.
On
Great
the
minds.
Perfect. On the CBMA front, you've identified quite a few violations to the tune of $26 million.
Yep, that
Okay.
sounds about right.
So you talked about communicating with external stakeholders on an international level. What about, and communicating expectations as you come to implementation? What about internally and domestically, I guess? How does TTB share data or investigatory information with the state? What's that communication look
No,
like?
that's a good question. So, you know, we do have a general prohibition against the sharing of taxpayer information, which makes things a little bit tricky. But on things like you know, like those CBMA violations, and you know, you're right, about $26 million, 200 or so violations uncovered in various areas, and in other areas as well, to include trade practice enforcement. You know, we have, you know, good reason to be sharing information back and forth with our state partners. So we are able to do that if we can enter into a tax information sharing agreement, like a memorandum of understanding with the states. And so we have those in place with a number of states. Totally, you know, totally open for business if there are states in the room with which we do not have such agreements, very eager to be in a position to share information back and forth.
Great, good. Switching gears a little bit, you earlier mentioned the executive order on competition as one of TTB's big priorities. Can you talk a bit about some of the competition focused rulemaking initiatives that TTB might undertake or consider?
Yeah, no, I am glad to, and of course that is another of the big ticket priorities. That executive order issue, I want to say last July. Did have 2-3 paragraphs on alcohol, which was, I think, a recognition of the importance of this the alcohol marketplace and the uniqueness of the marketplace. So our friends up the road at the Treasury Department, in partnership with the Department of Justice Antitrust Division and Federal Trade Commission, we're directed by the executive order to put together a report regarding sort of the conditions of competition across the market for alcohol, and to provide some recommendations for rulemaking. And we have been sort of running through those recommendations, both those that were in the executive order and those that were in the Treasury report, which is also some pretty solid beach reading if you guys are in the market. And we are sort of in the end stages, and actually have started rolling out some rulemaking efforts that tie to the executive order. So those that have been rolled out and or that are under consideration to be rolled out are things like updating of trade practice regulations, recognizing that the last time trade practice regulations were updated was, I think, 1995, and a few things have happened in the marketplace since then. So we think an opportunity to take a fresh look as a community. We view rulemaking as a team sport across the board, and we want all thoughts on all of these prospective rulemaking opportunities. Additionally, looking at the approach to standards of fill. We pushed out a notice of proposed rulemaking on that back in May. The comment period, I want to say, closed about a month ago. So, that team sport is underway as we speak, finalizing things like wine treating materials regulations, looking at the approach to standards of identity, looking at labeling issues, so ingredients, nutritional content, allergens, those sorts of things. I think we can expect to see coming down the pike.
Great. Well, I know this room is full of plenty of people be on that team effort.
Yes, please.
And share those thoughts. So I'm glad to know that that's something you're interested in. I'll be sure to share your personal cell phone number so everyone can give you a call, text you, and say, I had this idea. It came to me maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I wanted to share it with you.
Maybe when the
yeah, 4:15, whichever one you prefer.
Yeah, totally good. Totally good. Love to hear all the ideas. And I'll add that Treasury Department report was informed by, I want to say 700 or 800 comments that were provided by this community, and I think by many in this room. So we appreciate that.
Good. Well, I as someone who might be new to the space, this is not necessarily a question for me, but I think certainly not for me. Or as maybe a new legislator or regulator, how does TTB work within the structure of the 21st Amendment? I think, as you mentioned, and as we know, it's an old amendment to the Constitution.
Yes.
But tell me some more about that. How does TTB work within that framework, and give us a little bit of an overview of that from a federal perspective, knowing that we regulate alcohol on a state-based level.
So what is this, the 21st?
Yes,
Amendment?
21st,
Okay.
AME.
All right, got it. Well, I will say that unlike John and Brian and Brandon, it is a small miracle that I passed constitutional law. So I do need the spelling and the law school, but so I'm not sure I'm really the guy for this, but I've picked up a little bit over the last year and a half anyway. And of course, mentioned in the last session, the 21st Amendment does give the states a significant amount of authority over how alcohol is treated, how it's regulated within each state's borders. And, of course, at the same time, we have under the Internal Revenue Code and the Federal Alcohol Administration Act, we at TTB and federal government have responsibility for administering a federal regulatory and tax compliance regime, addressing unfair trade practices, issuing permits, approving labels, permits, all the rest of that. And of course, industry members have the super fun task of trying to comply with all of those things across 50 states and the federal regime. So one of the distinctions I'd say is between what happens in the states and what happens federally is that our federal authorities, as a general rule, don't apply to the retail tier. That tends to be covered at the state level, but at the same time, a lot of what we work to enforce, particularly with respect to maintaining that level playing field, relies on information out of the retail tier. So, we have a very strong interest, as mentioned before, in working closely with state regulators and law enforcement authorities. So, we really value the opportunity to build relationships with our state partners, to enter into information sharing agreements and to work together to support one another and help one another out.
Great. You talked about customer experience.
Yeah.
Would those states be part of your customer base? Talk to us some more about your customers. I mean, is that the general public, industry at large?
Yeah.
Share a bit.
I'd say all of the above, right? So we believe we have a host of stakeholders and customers. So ultimately we are accountable to the American people, to Congress, to our industry stakeholders, to our state partners, to our friends up the road at the Treasury Department, to our federal partners. So we want to work well and seamlessly with all of these, and we really are striving for sort of a 21st century, or at least late 20th century approach to regulation of the alcohol beverage industry. And so that means looking at what we can enhance with respect to online interfaces, looking at where we can make it easier and less burdensome for industry members to comply. We are currently working a permit modernization, tax simplification project where we're looking to remove about 75% of the information that folks submit to us as they apply for permits or submit information about their taxes or claims or otherwise. So that's going to be a big deal. We're going to start asking only for the information we actually need, which I know is a crazy concept, but that is where we're headed. So we view we believe we have a lot of customers, maybe first and foremost, those who touch TTB and try to interface with TTB on a daily basis, and that tends to be the industry members. But they are not alone, and I would say a wide variety of advocacy groups, public health, and others, care about what TTB does. And so we want to be in addition to being modern and streamlined, we want to be accessible as well, and that means being out here in the world, being available, and true story. People can absolutely have my personal cell number. I want to hear from you guys. Mary Ryan, our administrator, wants to hear from you guys. We don't have to wait for opportunities like this forum to come along. So text, email, stop on by if you're downtown DC. We would love to see you. That's my story.
Stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad to know this. I know certainly communicating with you has been wonderful. It's been great to have you at last year's conference and again this year. And I know you do love a delicious lunch downtown. I know we've had the opportunity to get together and chat, where you told me about a new Coca-Cola product. It's Coca-Cola Starlight.
Yes.
Is that right? It's horrible. Yeah. Oh no.
I kind of don't hate it. It tastes like space.
Do you taste? Do you taste space a lot, Dave?
I had not, but I kind of like space.
Now you know.
I kind of like space. There's a new one that apparently tastes like dreams, and I am not a paid endorser of the Coca-Cola company, but the dreams do not taste as good as the space.
Tastes like nightmares.
Yeah, the dreams are horrible.
Okay.
The dreams taste like the like bubblegum flavor fluoride at the dentist when you're a kid.
You heard
But
it
yeah,
here first.
space tastes great, and I'm gonna get you a bottle. or a can.
Perfect. And you can mail it because it's not alcohol.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes, indeed.
Thank you. Well, I don't want to take all of the time here, and
It's a
I
trick
know
question.
it was not on my list.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That works.
I do want to open it up for questions from all of you. And so you don't have to text Dave. You can ask him while he's sitting here in the flesh. Pam Erickson. We'll hear and then we'll go.
Deputy Wolf, I was wondering if the TTB has had any further discussions or debates on alcohol infused with CBD or THC? And the second part of my question is, if so, are you considering or would you consider having the FDA involved in those discussions?
Yeah, I think we have, that's a good question. We have not had significant discussion on that front. Something we're certainly monitoring, and absolutely we would welcome input from FDA. I think in the interest of sort of a big tech and working as a team, we want everyone to be part of every relevant dialogue. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mr. Wolf, you seem very focused on economic development, and throughout the state legislatures are with you. But what gets left in the dust is public health. As you know, alcohol creates a great deal of harm, particularly to local communities.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can talk about TTB's efforts in that regard.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. And it's something we're attuned to. We are not set up, we're not really chartered as a public health entity. And we sort of rely on organizations like the FDA, like CDC, the Surgeon General, to focus on public health impacts. But we recognize that a lot of what we do can have an impact, can move the needle on the public health front. So ensuring that labels don't include misleading health claims or untrue health claims, for instance, ensuring that they contain that's designed to let consumers know accurately what is in the product they are consuming. So all those sorts of things are areas in which we touch public health, and we are open and and continue to talk with public health advocates and welcome more such dialogue going forward. So I hope that's helpful.
Dave, Bill Young with the Beer Institute.
Hey, Bill.
I have so much appreciated. I think it's been more than a year now, this Dave Wolf TTB accessibility tour that you've been on. This has been fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Right
back
back
at you.
You've joined our meetings and others in the industry often here in the last almost 2 years now, probably.
Yeah,
so
it's getting there.
Thank you. You hosted us, the Beer Institute, a few months ago to be able to talk about some guidance, voluntary guidance that you gave the alcohol industry back in 2013. We finally call it, guidance 2013-2. So the nutritional labeling bit that you just spoke of, that was also mentioned in the competition report. So, in the beer industry, as we told you in our meeting, in terms of the Beer Institute membership, 80%, right, almost of the beer sold in America, 95% of the beer that our members sell have the nutritional labeling 2013-2 guidance in it. So just and congratulate that one of the big spirits companies actually announced in the last month that they're actually doing that guidance too. So it's unfortunately the beer guys can't say we're the only ones now, but we still say we're the first. But as you noted, that's a rule that's been we've been expecting a final rule coming now for nearly 10 years. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Do you know now? One of the things that I think we really like in beer is being able to just follow the guidance as it says in that rule. Or if beer is going to do it, it ought to look this way. Going forward, of course, we'd like to keep doing it as we're doing it. Our members are doing. Is there, as it's close to maybe coming out as post competition report anymore, you could tell us on what you might be doing with a final rule there on nutritional labeling?
Yeah, so I think it is absolutely, I appreciate all the comments, Bill, and certainly congratulate you guys and the Distilled Spirits folks on the voluntary effort. Hugely important stuff. So certainly nutritional content, ingredient content, prospect of allergens is something that is on the table. I don't know whether it's likely that we will do a final rule without some additional, pre-final rule notices and opportunities to comment. But don't take that to the bank. It's totally on the table, and pretty front and center as reflected in the recommendations in the executive order. And the treasury report. So absolutely on the radar, and I think important, right? And certainly there's a discussion to be had about the I think the undoubtedly there's value to it. There's potentially a discussion to be had about the costs to industry members, but as mentioned, team sport all the way, and you guys have certainly been leaders in this area, and it's appreciated. So more to come. I'm sorry, it's a little bit wishy-washy, but totally on the radar. Absolutely.
Any more questions before we wrap up with Dave and let him go search for Coke, Dream,
Yep.
or Nightmare?
I'm
if you
on
don't
it.
like it.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I hate the dream.
Hate this. Heard it here first, Dave
Dream
hates
hater.
Dream.
That's a good headline.
Great. Well, thank you,
Wolf
Dave.
hates dreams.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be sure to make that the
Yeah.
press release headline.
Very nice.
And give Dave a round of applause, everyone. For doing it.